Welcome everybody to the Keto Edge Summit, where we are dispelling the myths, helping you overcome the hurdles, and empowering you to improve your brain and your body and get an edge in life through the ketogenic lifestyle. I've got an awesome guest today. This is my good friend, Dr. Gez Agoli. He runs one of the largest integrative health clinics called Progressive Medical in the Atlanta, Georgia area. And just really been a great mentor of mine and really one of the pioneers in this whole area of functional medicine. We're going to go into that in detail. And so, Gez, it's really an honor to have you with us. And tell us a little bit about how you got into this, how you got into natural health in general.
Well, first of all, thank you, Dr. David. I really appreciate the opportunity to share with your listeners here with such an amazing summit, the Keto Edge. And, you know, it's interesting how you say how I got involved because, you know, you talk to a lot of individuals when they grow up. And I want to be a doctor, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a policeman. I never really grew up wanting to be a doctor. Obviously, I had a lot of respect and reverence for physicians. When I grew up, Marcus Welby was one of the well-known physicians on television, of course, which is interesting. But my passion really began while I was in the United States Air Force serving. And unfortunately, my father received a devastating blow of cancer. You know, a lot of Americans today receive that devastating C word, and there's a lot of fear and trepidation and not understanding because it is fearful. And our medical system has made it that way. And we're going to talk a little bit more about cancer because cancer is a metabolic disease, as you and I both know. And I'm sure a lot of listeners out there are tuning in because they want to hear about some of these chronic diseases. But that was a blow to me because I lost my father in 6 months.
Right.
And he was a very young man. He was only 46 years old, and it was devastating to me. But what it made more devastating to me was the lack of compassion from that physician. I'm not here disrespecting any oncologist. I respect a lot of oncologists. But this particular physician just basically said, there's no hope, there's nothing you can do. And that really galvanized me to take action because no one talked about nutrition. No one talked about why. Yeah. And they just immediately went into this chemo and talked about radiation and wow, and it just destroyed his immune system. So that really galvanized me to take action, and then left the Air Force, went on to finish a bachelor's in healthcare administration. Actually started off in the business aspect of healthcare, and then my passion turned into training allopathic doctors that are traditionally trained medical doctors. Finished a degree in nutrition, PhD, then naturopathic degree, then ultimately went on to medical school, and I wanted to do that to get to science, and that was my journey, and it was really interesting because I love the fact that we can practice integrative functional medicine, which is a combination of both, and we can talk a little bit about that. But that was really my journey, and that was 25 years ago, and it really took shape because I originally started off being upset with the system, but then I realized that I can make an impact. One doctor at a time, one patient at a time. And for me personally, my philosophy has been that the body can heal itself, the temple can heal itself when we allow it. It's just truly amazing how our Maker has made this body. And once we understand the biochemistry and the physiology and the immunology, then we can talk about science and look at therapies that truly first do no harm. And that's what I love about the Keto Edge Summit. Because we're going to be dispelling the myths, and we're also going to be talking science. This is unfortunately a lot of traditional doctors say, where's the science, where's the science? Well, I can just say this, there's a lot of science, a lot of science. So this is what's really been exciting for me, David, is that my journey started off with a very negative situation that I really sat back and I said, what can I do positively? Because I was scared. I really thought that me and my brothers and my other family members and eventually having a family, children, that wow, because my dad had cancer, I'm gonna get cancer. I didn't understand about the epigenetics. I didn't understand the expression of the gene. And of course the DNA, the discovery of DNA, which is very important, but it's just an imprint, it's a snapshot. And now we're realizing that unfortunately, when I was growing up, I didn't even know what cancer was, but in the early 70s, I remember my parents talking about President Nixon, and he addressed the nation back then in 1973, and he declared war on cancer. And at that time, 1 in 7 Americans had cancer. And now, over 45 years later, declaring war on cancer, billions and billions of dollars on research, billions.
Yeah.
Which I applaud the president for doing that. But where are we today? 1 in 3 in women and 1 in 2 in men in our lifetime will succumb to cancer. So where's all the research gone? So this is what's exciting, is that we're doing the research. We're looking at practical ways of helping our population and making an impact. And that's why I love the Keto Edge Summit.
Absolutely. And so just like you said, I mean, that's one of the things that I've found with our speakers is we're using our trial, right, and our great challenge in life that's helped actually fuel us into making change in the world, right? Just like what you're doing here. And, you know, you've been in the integrative functional medicine world now for a while. And so where have you seen it now, in a sense, evolve since when you originally got in it, which was late 80s, early 90s, right? What have you seen happen in this?
I've seen a great shift. First of all, it's a great question because we have to really understand our history, and I really love history. And you know, I love the fact that we live in the United States and we have all this history, and we have certain individuals in our society that want to negate the history. And when we look at the history of our country in medicine, I like to quote Benjamin Rush, who was one of the founding fathers, and he was one of the only medical doctors as a founding father. He helped draft the Constitution, personal physician to George Washington. And he said in his memoirs that a day will come when a group of men will create an undercover medical dictatorship. To restrict the art of healing to one class of men constitutes the Bastille of medical science. Bastille is French for prison. All laws of such are un-American and despotic and do not have a place in our republic. Therefore, we must include medical freedom into the Constitution. Signed, Benjamin Rush, MD, 1776. Unfortunately, David, those men who were farmers, they were politicians, attorneys, they were accountants that's drafted the Constitution. He was the only medical doctor. So they didn't have the vision, so guess what? They didn't vote medical freedom into the Constitution. Now here's why I say that. A lot of Americans believe they have medical freedom. They really, really don't. Because the undercover medical dictatorship is a stronghold, and that stronghold is the FDA. The FDA started off really, really good when President Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt, brought it into Congress, got approved. It was there to protect the American public. But now we're seeing a lot of shifting in that. We're seeing a lot of officials going to pharmaceutical companies. And I will tell you, because I've had medical training as a medical doctor as well as a naturopath, I believe in pharmaceuticals when it's necessary. But we're seeing right now, we're not seeing the proper research. We're also seeing that the American public is being dictated to by insurance companies. And although I think insurance is important to defray the cost, but now we're having administrators telling doctors how to practice medicine. That's not putting patients first. So getting back to your question, what I see happening, the American public wants this. So when we started off, it was very difficult. It was almost like you're underground. And I really respected someone like Dr. Benjamin Rush, who had the vision to have freedom and for us to discuss openly about the science. And now some scientists were actually afraid, oh, wait a minute here. What if I talk about something more natural? The pharmaceutical company gets mad. And what we need to do is to change our system from the medical school all the way down to the practicing physicians. And I see a lot of new graduates right now really excited about nutrition and really excited about integrative medicine. And integrative medicine, from my perspective, is just good medicine. So we're seeing a shift. The American public is driving this, which is exciting to me. And I also think that we have to keep our system in check from healthcare. And when it comes to traditional doctors, we have the best healthcare system in the world when it comes to trauma and urgent care. But when it comes to chronic diseases, we're falling short. And this is why we need functional, integrative doctors to fill the gap.
Absolutely. And that's really what you've done with Progressive Medical, which is, you know, one of the largest integrative health clinics really in the whole world. And he's got multiple clinics throughout the Atlanta area. And obviously you have a group of MDs, you have dietitians, you have naturopaths, chiropractors, right? All in really in, you know, in one office that people can go and see. And so can you list basically, you know, a number of the services that you guys provide there and the kind of conditions that are coming in on a regular basis?
Well, we focus on chronic diseases. And the definition of a chronic disease, which a lot of Americans may not understand, it's a long-standing disease. where typically if you become ill, whether you have a flu, whether you have a cold, typically your body's going to recover from that. Or if you're in an accident, urgent care, which is what I'm talking about. We have the best healthcare system for urgent care. But when it comes to chronic diseases, this is what integrative medicine fills the gap. So at Progressive Medical, as you mentioned, we are a group of physicians, starting off with medical doctors. We've had osteopathic physicians. We've had chiropractors. We're big believers in chiropractic medicine, only because if we don't get the spine in alignment, and if there's a structural problem, it doesn't matter what you do nutritionally, the body's just not going to heal properly, and vice versa. We do have some individuals just do chiropractic, and when we just don't believe that, we think it's a combination, and that's what integrative medicine is. It's taking the best from each modality, and our facility works with, as a team approach, with naturopathic physicians. We have registered dietitians for nutrition, health coaches as well. We have colon therapists that talk about the benefits of that area. So it's all coming together. And the therapies we have intravenous therapies, only because certain individuals don't digest properly, David. And you heard the old story that you are what you eat. That's not true. You are what you digest, absorb, and assimilate. And there's certain individuals that need to have intravenous therapies. Now, that does sound invasive, yes, but these particular IVs have been researched and they've been tested. And we have some very interesting IVs. We do ozone therapies, which is an oxidative therapy, a lot of research from that. We've started doing some cutting edge IV therapies. One of them is called NAD, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. It's a coenzyme for B3, and it's pretty much part of the Krebs cycle, which is energy, which really excites me because we're talking about the Keto Edge, which is all about energy and how the body creates energy from that sources, and we'll talk a little more about that. But I'm looking for cutting edge therapies that first do no harm. When I graduated medical school, and David as well, we actually recited the Hippocrates Oath, and that's part of it. And this is what we're looking for as well. And most physicians become physicians because they want to help patients. And unfortunately, our healthcare system has made it difficult for some of them. I'm really excited in 2017 because we're seeing more and more research. Stanford University is doing research, Harvard University is doing research, MIT. We're getting a lot of these, University of Maryland, a lot of these great physicians, forward thinking, are doing research. Dr. D. Agostino, University of South Florida, he's doing research on what we're talking about. So we're validating because this has been the criticism. So at Progressive, we're looking for research-based therapies. We have hyperbaric oxygen. We're big believers in infrared sauna. And the very first step at our facility, and we encourage other doctors to do this as well, is to get a snapshot of where you are with your metabolism, where you are with your immune function, where you are with your nutrition. And that only happens through testing. And this is what our philosophy, core philosophy is. Yes, if you're listening to us today, you can get really, really healthy with some of the recommendations these speakers are making, but I encourage everybody out there to at least get a snapshot of what's going on with their hormones and their thyroid. And all of this is very, very helpful. So this is what Progressive's philosophy is all about. And our mission at Progressive Medical, which now we have a medical management company, is to encourage other doctors to really take an interest in integrative medicine. I truly believe in the next 5 to 10 years that integrative medicine will be on the road to standard of care. And this is what's exciting to me.
Yeah, very much so. Absolutely. I mean, the whole healthcare world is really shifting in that direction. And so let's jump back to ketogenic lifestyle, right? Which is something we're both passionate about. And so how have you guys started implementing that at Progressive? And really, how did you come across it to begin with?
Yeah, that's a great question. So through my medical studies over the year and obviously learning about neurology, this is my first exposure to the ketogenic diet when I was reading case studies of epilepsy and it's very, very difficult for neurologists when you have a young child with epileptic fits, and it's so frustrating to see parents struggle. I've seen that numerous times. You end up having the child wear a helmet just to protect. Typically, when you have a seizure, it's like having a thunderstorm on your brain. And each time that happens, your basically destroying these brain neurons and that synaptic connection that our brain function needs for all aspects of life, even walking, talking, memory, short-term memory, eating, breathing, all relies on our brain function and our autonomic nervous system. That was my first exposure to ketogenic diet. And it seemed counterintuitive. I'm like, are you kidding me? Putting all of this fat in the body? But then I realized, learning biochemistry, realizing how we create energy through carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, and the body converts that, and eventually we get into the Krebs cycle, and of course we need something called acetyl-CoA to convert that. And it all boils down to something called glycolysis, is how we take glucose and convert that into energy. And so a lot of physicians realized the science was very strong, although it was difficult at times. But I felt that initially, David, that, wow, that's a lot of fat. Oh my goodness. And you know, we were taught in the 80s, oh my gosh, fat is bad. Fat is gonna cause cholesterol and we're gonna have heart disease, which we've dispelled that myth. Some physicians still believe that. The forward-thinking physicians and cardiologists understand that cholesterol is necessary because without cholesterol, we're not going to have the transport mechanism. We're not going to have proper amounts of cholesterol for the brain. And ultimately, we actually make cholesterol in the liver. And without it, we're not going to make hormones and neurotransmitters. So, you know, we realize that as well. So that's my first exposure to it. Now, clinically, a lot of our physicians really didn't start taking keto diets and keto lifestyle seriously until about 10 years ago, until we started really dispelling the myths on cancer. You know, a lot of physicians today, oncologists, are very hardworking and they're dealing with a lot of sick patients, but they've really not done the research because they're so busy fighting the cancer. They're so busy looking for the cure. Is there really a cure? Cancer is a multifactorial disease. Cancer is a metabolic disease. And this is where we've realized, and this is where doctors have fallen short, that cancer actually can be made better, I'm not going to use the cure word, made better by looking at the metabolism of it all. It all boils down to gluconeogenesis, where the body can make glucose for fuel sources. And as we continue to talk about how you get into ketosis, this is really exciting. And we do have an oncologist on staff. She's been a oncologist for 20 years and she loves the science and she is making recommendations on the ketogenic lifestyle because she realizes, in addition to doing high dose vitamin C, in addition to doing chemo, yes, we do chemo because there's a time and place for it. But we do it in such a capacity that the cancer cells become permeable, they become weakened. And by going into that ketosis and allowing the body to burn ketone bodies, that cancer cell is not going to be fed nutrition. And then you can give it a knockout punch. And that's really exciting, David. And I'm hoping that more oncologists will see the benefits to this. Because I've heard some horror stories over the years. I've heard patients come in because oncologists are concerned about something called cachexia. That's a fancy word which means muscle wasting. And we're seeing a lot of patients with cancer becoming catabolic and cachexic. So, you know, physicians say, okay, eat whatever you want. I've actually had patients come in with stage 4 cancer and their oncologist said, yeah, eat a tub of ice cream every day. Have that Milky Bar. And I'm like, really? Because they just were concerned about getting the weight on and they were not paying attention to the biochemistry of the gluconeogenesis. And we know without a shadow of a doubt in our research that gluconeogenesis plays a huge role in most chronic diseases. And this is what's exciting to me about the Keto Edge Summit, because we have the science to back this up.
Correct. And you know, the thing that most oncologists don't know either is that when you go on a ketogenic diet, okay, you're actually going to have, once you get the ketones elevated in your bloodstream, you're going to have elevated blood leucine. And leucine is an amino acid that helps preserve lean body tissue. So you'll actually, as you, in a sense, as you keto adapt, you're going to preserve your lean body tissue. So you're less risk for cachexia. You're going to start to revert that catabolic activity in the body. So
yeah, absolutely. But it is counterintuitive to them because they realize what happens. Because there is an element when you go into ketosis and how the body creates these ketone bodies. And it's really important to understand, when I use the word gluconeogenesis, it's basically your body can create glucose for energy. And what's happening right now in our society is that 79 million Americans have been diagnosed with prediabetes. Most of them don't even realize what that is. And that's according to the CDC numbers. Yeah. Approximately 28 million Americans have type 2 diabetes, which used to be called adult onset. But they don't call it that anymore because we're seeing teenagers getting it.
Exactly.
And a lot of this has to do with adding fructose into the diet.
Yeah.
And the research that I've done, and I didn't learn this in medical school, I had to do some research by some forward-thinking biochemists and professors on nutritional biochemistry. But this is shocking to me, David, that 120 calories of fructose actually converts to 40 grams of fat in the body. A lot has to do with the liver. We're seeing a lot of individuals now diagnosed with non-alcoholic fatty livers, and they don't even know they have it. Has a lot to do with fructose. As opposed to 100 calories of glucose, raw sugar cane converts to 1 gram of fat. So this is staggering. Having fructose is actually essentially eating fat. Not to mention the fact that's affecting our glycogen stores. And what ends up happening is that we end up with something called insulin resistance. Insulin is so important because that's basically unlocks the key to get into the cell. Because we have to be able to create energy. And what's happening in our society, we're told at a very early age to have breakfast, to have a snack. Our children are eating 4 or 5 meals a day, and you wonder why they can't pay attention. And that is a myth. And what's exciting to me is that in addition to ketogenic lifestyle, now we bring in the intermittent fasting. Because fasting is also another mechanism to get into ketosis. The body can literally get into ketosis by abstaining from food for a 2 to 3 day period because the liver is storing something called glycogen, which is stored up through carbohydrates, through carbo loading. Also by having excess protein, which converts into amino acid, but it also has a process and it goes through something called amination that actually takes that and goes into glycogen as well. So we got to be careful when it comes to having too much protein. So there's a combination of the carbs, the fats, and the protein. And what I've seen as well, David, is that it's a process. And it's an educational process. There's many ways to get to ketosis, which is really exciting. And that's what I've seen clinically as well. And I'm really excited that where we're going with the research and having forward physicians such as yourself and a lot of the ones that have listened to this Keto Edge Summit. I'm excited. I'm really excited for the future because we're really getting down to the science.
Absolutely. And really a ketogenic diet is a fasting mimicking diet. And so for most of us, we weren't brought up to fast, but our ancestors did on a regular basis. Either number one, due to just food scarcity in general, not having the food abundance like we have. Number two, almost every major religion incorporates fasting as really just a part of their spiritual approach. And so our ancestors were doing this regularly. We've lost, it's a skill set in a sense. We've lost that skill set, but our body's very intelligent at it. And it's good at adapting back to fasting once you start to kind of prime the pump a little bit. And how do you, I know you personally do some intermittent fasting. How do you like to do that?
Well, first of all, I love intermittent fasting because it's part of a lifestyle. This is a lifestyle, by the way. This is a lifestyle. And there's many roads to that particular lifestyle. And this is where you need to work with whether you're a practitioner or yourself. But I love the word you said, adapt. The human body can adapt to many austere environments. And that's why when we go and look at the research, there is something called a sirtuin, and the sirtuin is a longevity gene. There's been a lot of research on that. And there's a faction of individuals that believe in caloric restriction. The problem with that, David, is that, and I'm not against that, of course, the science is very solid, but the problem is they actually become emaciated and they don't look fit. And what's interesting about fasting, that doesn't actually happen. There's been research study after research study. When you fast, you actually, over a period of time, release growth hormone, which really sounds counterintuitive, but that's just the body's mechanism of dealing with that stressor of fasting. In addition to that, we allow the digestive system to rest. And what's really interesting is that because the body's made up of all of these cells, we have over 100 trillion cells. We're nothing but a bunch of cells.
Right.
And what's interesting is that our digestive system, which is the size of a tennis court from your mouth to your rectum, you can stretch that. And what I find fascinating about the digestive system is that when you're eating, the body's got to work hard.
Yeah.
So by abstaining, you know, when you use the word breakfast, it's break the fast. And you're allowing the body to rest, and you're allowing the body to go into a form of looking for energy elsewhere. And it's typically 16 hours is the rule of thumb. Some could go longer. We believe, yourself and myself and other research scientists, you know, having water, and now we know that coffee can have some benefits, and you can add MCT or coconut oil, or even, if you want something interesting, avocado oil as well. But, you know, typically having that 1 or 2 cups of that is sustaining and fulfilling. Yeah. And also allowing the body to convert that fat into ketones as well, and your brain's being nourished. But what I love about the intermittent fasting, it's a lifestyle. Whether you do it 1 day, 2 days, 6 days, it's just a lifestyle. And I also encourage listeners out there to do a little more research on fasting. And I know that we've had some great speakers here talk about fasting, 3 days, 6 days, 9 days. Numbers are very important, actually. Numbers are very important because it all depends how the body actually utilizes energy. But I think myself personally, I've noticed more clarity. I've noticed more lean muscle tissue. I've noticed more energy for the workouts, weight loss as well. But really, I love the word adaptogenic. Yeah. Because the body can adapt. Because when you put the body into an unphysiological state, we were designed this way. This is how our maker made us. This is how we survived. We didn't know where our food's coming.
Yeah. Exactly.
So we would basically hunt and gather, and we would eat and feast, and have a time of fellowship. Right. We've lost that in our society. We're such a fast-paced society. We're having drive-thrus, and we're all about a convenience, and we're standing up, and we're looking, and we're eating on the run. You're better off not eating and having liquids. Okay, I think it's very important. And you know, it's interesting. I've heard of individuals survive without eating for 30 days, even longer.
Yeah, longer.
I've heard of individuals that can survive with maybe 9 to 10 days without having water, and I've never heard of a human being survive without more than 10 minutes without oxygen. So oxygen is the most important. We're made of oxygen, about 70% oxygen. But my point here is this: we don't need to eat to survive. And what we have to understand is that food is nourishment. Unfortunately, we have a society, an industry, that's run by individuals that don't put nourishment first. They're basically looking to get us hooked to eat more. And we've had scientists that actually look for chemicals to eat more. You know, when you have these fries, they actually have these, it affects your satiety center, which is part of the hypothalamus. So we really have to really take a look at our food supply. Yeah. But ultimately, you're in charge of your own food supply. You're in charge of your own temple. And that what you decide to do with that, it's your choice. We're not here to criticize anybody. We all are going to make mistakes at times. But the nice thing is you can recover very quickly. Yeah. You can make a mistake. You can eat junk food, garbage, carbohydrates, and you can get back the next day, start the intermittent fasting, get on the low glycemic, low carbohydrate, and get on that road to wellness. Because that's really the key, David, is that road to wellness. Yeah. So I think this body is an incredible, incredible biochemistry machine. And that once you learn how your body operates, and you can do it. I've heard so many people say to me, I can't fast, I have to eat, I have low blood sugar. And within a matter of a week training, guess what? They easily do that. They thrive in it. I mean, right now, you and I are on our fast. I'm on probably about a 15, 16-hour fast. I feel great. Typically, the research is showing 16 to 20 hours intermittent fasting. You can try a little less with that, or probably possibly go longer. Yeah. But I think it's a wonderful tool. And here's the best part about it. It's free. Yeah. You actually save money doing this. Right. You save money doing this. And this is a great strategy to get healthy. And I want to mention some of the medical research that's been happening. Is that when you fast properly, your body goes into a healing mode. It's called autophagy. And autophagy is basically, the way I can describe it, it's intracellular degradation. For those of you that remember that game called Pac-Man, it's like literally cleaning up and just gobbling it up, and that's what the human body does. Our humoral system that has a memory just actually has these macrophages and these phagocytoses and getting rid of these infections and really cleaning up that cellular debris and enhancing the longevity gene. So I believe that we were designed in God's image.
Yeah.
And when God breathed his life into the nostril of man, he designed our body to heal itself. So we have to use what our Maker gave us to heal. Yeah, we live in 2017. Yes, we have technology, but at the same time, we've got to go back to the basics. And we have to look at our body as a temple and look at some of the strategies. And I believe through scientific research and practice and seeing other individuals in our practice, when you add intermittent fasting, you're going to take your health to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a study, Intermittent Mountain Medical Study, that was done in 2007. I always cite this and I talk about it because what they showed was they took women who fasted for 24 hours, right? So like 6 p.m. to 6 p.m. the next day, and they took men doing the same. And they had a 1,200% increase in human growth hormone for the women, 2,000% increase for the men. So if there was a medication that could increase your human growth hormone, which is really this hormone that helps your tissues start to repair and regenerate, okay, and start to heal and helps you reverse chronic disease, helps strengthen your immune system. If there was some sort of a medication that could increase levels like that, they'd be putting it in the water, right? And really just a day-long fast is able to do that. And so
they really would be put in the water. But you know what's interesting is that the medical profession want to put statins in the water, which is just unheard of. And they basically would have been destroying our children because our children need growth hormone, and we get that from good, healthy levels of cholesterol. Let me just say this right now, that if your doctor said to you that your cholesterol is too high, I encourage you to partner with your doctor and ask your doctor, hey, can I do the testing that's called oxidized LDL? Can I look at the particle size? Not all cholesterol is created equal. We need cholesterol for the electronic transport, and when we do intermittent fasting, as Dr. David just said, we're releasing growth hormone. Growth hormone is the master hormone of the body. I like to describe it this way. If you go to a symphony, and you have a conductor there, that's like the growth hormone. That conductor is telling all the other individuals, which growth hormone does for the other hormones. We have so many hormones that communicate with each other. And as we age, our body declines in growth hormone. So intermittent fasting, proper exercise. If you exercise before you break the fast, you even get more of a growth hormone release. So, and we're not talking an arduous workout here. We're talking about a short workout. And it's very, very effective. So this is powerful information, David, that you're sharing, because you're right about the growth hormone. And Dr. Daniel Rudman, back in the 1980s, Michigan State, did a great study on growth hormone with the elderly population. And it really got us thinking about using exogenous growth hormone, which we were getting it, and I don't want people to get freaked out, but we're getting it from cadavers, okay? And unfortunately, some of these cadavers are infected. So then the pharmaceutical company developed a synthetic growth hormone for 189 to 191 amino acids, because amino acids are the building blocks of life. And we started using that. Here's the problem. There were some side effects. And so if we can find a way that's cost effective to release growth hormone, why wouldn't we do it? And it all starts by taking that first step. And the first step is just to try. And even though psychologically I have to eat, if you just do it slowly, you'll be amazed what you can accomplish.
Absolutely, it's incredible. And so what kind of supplements are out there too to help somebody, let's say, get into ketosis faster? Because when you're in ketosis, it's easier to fast. Ketosis and fasting are like best friends in a sense that when you fast, your body starts producing ketones because glycogen lowers, you need an alternative fuel source, ketone production increases. And when you're in ketosis, you really don't have hunger and cravings, so it's much easier for your body to go extended period of times without food. So what are some things that you're using now to help people get into ketosis, right? And be able to have an intermittent fasting lifestyle?
Yeah, so it is a combination of intermittent fasting and getting into ketosis. Certainly you can get into ketosis just by following the rule of thumb, which is having anywhere from 75 to 80% of your diet is from a fat source. Typically, when we're talking about fats, we're talking about good saturated fats. We're not talking about polyunsaturated fats, which is really the bad stuff, which is from plant and other peanut oil and things of that nature. We're talking about the coconut, we're talking about medium chain triglycerides, we're talking about avocado, we're talking about all of these really good fats, grass-fed butter, ghee. Those are really, really, really good. And then about 25% from a good protein source. And here's where the confusion lies, David, is that, with the original Atkins diet, low-carb diet, a lot of individuals still could get into ketosis, but unfortunately there comes an adaptation period where they're having too much protein.
Yeah. And
that protein, even though it's necessary for the body, when you have too much protein, we know that can convert into glucose, gluconeogenesis as well. A lot has to do with the glycogen store in the liver. Everything we're talking about here from a biochemistry perspective all starts in the liver. Typically, when the body begins to be depleted of something called oxaloacetate, that's when the body goes into burning ketones. And we know that's such an important process. So what I like to see is working on the liver. And what I mean by working on the liver is to do certain things, whether it's a liver cleanse, supporting the liver with NAC, which converts to glutathione, some basic stuff of that nature, possibly even milk thistle. And that's an area, the reason why I want the liver functioning optimally is because that liver detoxifies at the cellular level. It's called phase 1, phase 2, and there's a phase 3 part of detoxifying. So that's important to get your liver working properly. But there's been a lot of research right now where we call it nutritional ketosis. And we know that there's 3 ketone bodies, okay? Acetate, acetone, and beta-hydroxybutyrate. So the acetoacetate is the second one, and the beta-hydroxybutyrate. So I've seen a lot of research, and this is one of the reasons why you and I got together, is that by supporting the body, we have something called the keto flu, which we have a period of time where our brain's not functioning properly, we're not feeling good, we may get a headache. So we like to mitigate that. So I'm a big believer in looking at exogenous ketones, not to replace you trying to get into ketosis with your diet, to support it. So I really believe that looking at beta-hydroxybutyrate as an exoketone, I'm also a big believer in looking at amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of life. So I love branched chain amino acids, isoleucine, leucine, and valine. It's just amazing how amino acids can build the body and recover. And also looking at adaptogenic herbs, and I know that you and I have discussed this in the past, and looking at anything that's going to help the immune function as well. And minerals. I think minerals are so important. So key to helping. So those are probably the key. But I would encourage our listeners, if there's something else going on metabolically, to look at other areas by testing your thyroid properly from a functional doctor, okay? And supporting the thyroid, and just really looking at nutritional supplements, because most of Americans are void. Most of Americans are void. When I wrote my thesis for my PhD in nutrition, I had to do research on minerals. Minerals are the spark plugs of life. They're cofactors. Nothing happens without minerals. Where do we get our minerals? We get them from our soil. But because of our agricultural practices, by not rotating the crops, by having a lot of chemicals and pesticides, and all these agricultural practices have been forgotten, our soil is depleted. Senate Document 264 back in the 30s, which is mandated from the Senate, they measured the soil. There's less than 30 to 40 minerals. So this is why we need nutrition. The spinach 50 years ago, the broccoli 50 years ago, was probably 7 times more dense with minerals. So we need, even have the healthiest diet in the world with organic fruits and vegetables and grass-fed meats and clean poultry. But ultimately, you may not be getting the supplements. So you need to understand, without supplementation, you will not achieve the optimal wellness you're looking for. So from a therapeutic perspective, we like to give the body what it needs, and then you can tailor off and work on your nutrition. So you have to really think outside the box. Yes, you can feel better just with your nutrition, but do you want to get optimal? Do you want to get to the point where the body is going to be able to thrive? And this is where I think we need to really understand the supplements.
Yeah, man, it's so critical. And I know you and I came together and we formulated this product, Keto Edge, right? Which really includes a lot of the things you just talked about. Exogenous ketones, right? We've got branched chain amino acids in there. We've got adaptogenic, really powerful adaptogenic mushrooms that support the immune system. We've got MCT powder, which is another MCT oil, really turns into ketones quickly, keeps them elevated in your bloodstream. So I really look at this like a 21st century supplement, and it's got the minerals in there as well, the electrolytes.
It's pretty much a very complete, it's very complete, and you did a great job when you came to formulate it and discussed it, because it's scientifically based. But I think what's really important to understand is that, yes, we encourage all of you to do the intermittent fasting. We encourage all of you to really take a hard look at the ketogenic lifestyle and to really do it. Here's the reality: stress. Stress comes in. We've got commitments with our family. We have commitments with our jobs. We've got commitments with traveling. Just traveling on the highway today causes stress. And when we're in stress, we actually affect the bodies to actually perform. So this is one of the reasons why we need to support it. And here's the other thing too: we're human. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to fall. We live in a fallen world. And there's still hope, and that's why I'm saying our message is, when you're looking at these supplements, it's going to help you stay into, I use the word nutritional ketosis because we're using nutrition through this formula to get the body into ketosis. I really want, this is not an excuse not to do the ketogenic lifestyle. This is to support you. And what's great about this, David, is that there's so much flexibility here. You know, whether you do intermittent fasting for 16 hours, 18 hours, whether you decide to fast with water, whether you add coffee, we're individuals. You have to fine tune, but the science is solid, and the key is to take that first step, not to sit in the sidelines, but to get out there and to really be proactive rather than reactive. I can tell you right now, in my 25-year career, so many patients have come to me and said, how did this happen? How did this happen? And you know what? Most individuals wait till it's too late. So I encourage and I applaud all of you listening that are proactive right now. Be proactive. Listen to everybody else on this Keto Edge Summit and take that first step, because ultimately your health is more important than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And so this has been an incredible interview. You've just given us so much incredible content and strategies and really how to put it all together. And what you're doing, obviously, with your health center and working with patients, helping them keto adapt and implement intermittent fasting, along with, obviously, the high-level therapies that you use, the IV therapies and whatnot, is really the future of healthcare. I mean, that's, when I look at it, your clinic is really paving the road for where healthcare is going over the next 5 to 10 years. And what do you see over the next 5, 10, 20 years with healthcare?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, you know, I just want to quote Thomas Alva Edison. We see Thomas Edison as this great inventor. You know, this guy invented thousands and thousands of things. And you know, he actually sat there and basically invented it took him 2,000 failures before he invented the light bulb. But let me tell you what Thomas Alva Edison said, that the nutritionists of today will be the doctors of tomorrow. And I really want to emphasize that for a minute. I'm not here to criticize doctors. I love doctors. I am one. But here's the problem. Sometimes we become too scientific. Sometimes we actually use the paralysis of analysis, and we're waiting for the standard of care, which basically takes years and years and years, and we continue to see the chronic disease escalate. Heart disease, all-time high, yet we're giving statin drugs. Cancer, all-time high, yet we're talking about the cure and all of this research and billions of dollars. Chronic disease is all-time high. Diabetes skyrocketing. So where I see this healthcare going for the next 5, 10 years, it's up to you. You, the individual, have to partner with your team. Not only a doctor. You need to look at having a coach. You need to look at working with a dietitian, nutritionist that's functionally trained. You need to say, how can I get my spine in alignment? And not just go to your you know, an orthopedic surgeon is phenomenal when you need that last resort for surgery, but do you really want to go there and have these doctors give you oxycodone, Percocet? Which now we realize that we've been fed a lie from that pharmaceutical company that it's safe. Oh, it's not safe. It's the gateway to all of these addictions. And we're seeing a whole society being addicted. So it starts with you. We need to give each other grace and forgive each other for our sins and work together as a team and to love ourselves and to love our neighbors and really to spread that message and to work, not to criticize and to take action to take care of our temple. So I really see that, David.
Yeah.
I really think that we need to have a movement in all different faiths, but especially for our Christian brothers and sisters, because they need to respect that temple. And why do I say that? Because in America, we have freedom, but freedom has a price. So if you choose to use that freedom to allow the food industry to dictate how you're going to live, you will suffer for that. And that's why I want to encourage all of us to take that step.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for this idea, because it's your idea for the Keto Edge Summit. I love this. I've loved the interviews that I've heard so far. I'm so excited for the future. And it's great to have individuals like you spreading the message, because this is what we need. We need individuals with strength. And we need individuals to empower our society, not to criticize. We have enough negative people out there. All you got to do is turn on the news and hear that. That's what I see us going in our healthcare system, is that we encourage each other. We always try to make it better. We always learn from our mistakes, and we remember history.
I love it. No, those are phenomenal words coming from a military vet, as well as really one of the pioneers in changing healthcare and functional medicine. And so, Dr. Getz, tell us more about how people can connect with you. Obviously, you got Progressive Medical. You also own part of Dunwoody Labs, right? Is that correct?
Yeah,
right?
So we have a medical management company, and just going to Progressive Medical, and we've helped laboratories and clinics work together. And our management company doesn't practice medicine, but it manages other doctors and laboratories and help bridge the gap for functional medicine. It's just as simple as if you live in Atlanta or there's other parts of the country, you can visit one of the websites of the clinics, progressivemedicalcenter.com. For those individuals that were interested in some functional testing, dunwoodylabs.com also. But I encourage you to work with your local physician as well. I encourage you, and certainly we'd love for you to come to our facility, but I really have a passion for that doctor that's listening right now that's saying, how do I really get started? You know, you get started by trying it yourself. And what I tell every functional integrative doctor is that you need to be a pillar of health. Nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes. But you need to try everything. I've tried every single therapy in the clinic, and we have over 100 different therapies. Well, I don't want to lie. I will not do bioidentical female hormones. I just want you to know that, okay? That's important. But I do everything else, and I'm passionate about it, and so I encourage all of you. So, you know, once again, Dr. David, it was a pleasure being here.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I wish you all the best for the future.
Well, thank you very much. And if you're out there listening and you've gotten value from this interview and some of the other interviews in the Keto Edge Summit, then we would really be honored if you would consider owning this entire program for yourself. You get all the transcripts, all the video, all the bonus content and information, so you can start applying this ketogenic lifestyle and really get the results that you're looking for and be empowered to live your best life and really, like we were talking about in the beginning, get an edge in life. And so if you would consider owning this for yourself, then we would consider that an honor and a privilege, and we would love to do everything we can to support you in your health journey.